AskReddit by Mystic Meerkat. What is the worst thing you've seen someone get addicted to that wasn't any form of drug-like substance or alcohol? Gambling. Witnessed a friend blow 190k last year. Slot machines have scared me, in particular since I went to Vegas. The hotel we stayed at had the slots right outside of their buffet. One night, we go get dinner and something just caught my eye about this lady as we were walking into the restaurant. She was in the same spot when we left 3 hours later. Then we went for breakfast the next morning and she was still there. In the same exact spot, wearing the same clothes. I'm not sure if she even had moved to use the bathroom. She looked like a zombie. Shopping. A friend's GF barely leaves the house except for work, and she shops online obsessively. Their garage is a solid cube of stuff, much of it unopened. Every inch of their home is crammed. There must be 150 scented candles in that house. He says he comes home every day to a stack of deliveries. I know someone who was like that. She bought 2 lawn mowers and they didn't even have a lawn. Tats. I have a friend who is in a lot of debt, but whenever he hits payday he gets some new ink instead of paying down his debt. As a tattoo artist, I see this a lot from people that would really benefit from therapy, mental health care, but it's not always accessible, so they seem to treat the tattoo process as a form of self-therapy. I don't agree with that at all obviously, but I do feel for whatever they must be internally trying to process. Also see this a lot from people that just don't seem to have meaningful connections with the people in their lives. Like I'm the only genuine form of social interaction they get. They just need someone to actually listen to them a lot of the time. This will sound stupid, but World of Warcraft. I know a person who lost an incredible job and broke up a, at least seemingly good, relationship due to their complete addiction to World of Warcraft. Yep. Had a friend whose wife literally had to threaten divorce with bags packed and car running before he'd quit. He would get up early, play, go to work, come home, play and then sleep and repeat. Weekends he'd be on 16 hours a day. Ignored his wife and kids the whole time. Stupid thing is, 2 years later she let him start playing again. Guess what happened? Pudding. I worked with a guy whose wife signed him up for a Pudding of the Month club as a gag gift. Turns out the guy really likes pudding. I borrowed a power saw from him one time and he showed me a section of his basement that was just shelves and shelves of pudding. Pudding cups. Instant pudding. The kind you have to cook. He even had a chest freezer filled with some weird foreign kind of pudding pop. He actually looked pretty good considering all the sugar he ate. This is the first one of all the comments that made me laugh. I just can't imagine how I would be able to contain my facial expressions if someone showed off their pudding collection to me. I would immediately start wondering if they were on the spectrum. Relationships. When someone can't stand being single for any length of time. And once they enter that relationship, they push all other friends aside because that new man-woman is all that matters. There are so many people I know who are like this. They just cannot and will not be alone even if the people they find are horrible. They will entertain the most toxic, abusive, terrible significant others on the planet, just because they think that having a warm body is better than being alone. It doesn't matter if they're around for days, weeks, or months. They are absolutely addicted. Me. Gambling. FML. Started GA last week. Hope I'm done for good. Sounds like you're a week free from letting gambling control your life any longer. Keep up the good work, friend. And remember that if you relapse, which people sometimes do, because we are human and humans make mistakes, you're still deserving of help, and you should still get back up and go to GA anyways. Tell them about it. It'll help. The only wrong thing you can do is fall back into the I'm not deserving of help, I deserve this misery mindset and give up. You deserve to heal from your addiction just like anyone else does. Don't believe the shit your brain tells you. That's just your addiction trying to drag you back into the gutter so you give into it again. But you got this. You can do this. A toxic boy. It was like my daughter was a junkie for him and he treated her like shit. It was horrible. She would cry every day. The littlest thing would make her bawl. Finally, when she was crying one day and said, "I feel like I'm dying inside," I told her dad we needed to do something. I took her to a faraway state where my best friend lives and we gave her a month-long vacay. She had a blast. Their relationship didn't even last 3 days when she got home. I think she realized there was more to life. Which was the goal. You're a great parent. I think a lot of parents would have the urge to try to order her to break up with him, which never works. But showing her on her own that she can live better is so much more effective and helpful for her. TikTok, social media doom scrolling, Reddit, for that one dude. And every day I see more and more examples. Even worse, some days I am one. Eater, a good and dandy cognitive dissonance tool. Eater equals edit to ADD. For anyone wanting to change, the most important thing to try is not using your phone first thing in the morning. Wait 30 minutes. Then an hour. Then 2. Eventually you'll retrain yourself to not care as much. Also, set app limits. Set it so you can only use the app for 30 to 60 minutes a day. Once your time is up, accumulated through the day, you can't open the app and the icon goes grey. It's quite the runaround to open it back up. Just a couple little tips. Candy Crush. It's digital cocaine. Found my new band name, thank you. For myself, anorexia. I'm addicted to feeling in control of myself and shit. Weird this is, logically I'm so out of control. Makes sense actually in a backwards way. It was the same with self-harm for me. Everything felt out of control in my life, but I could control this one thing. Hugs. Validation or attention from others. Your constant need for validation is sucking up my bandwidth, Randy Feltface. Food is one. A nasal spray. I used Afrin for like 3 years straight, lol, it was insane. I needed it every few hours. I'd wake up in the middle of the night to use it. If I left the house without it, I had to stop at a drugstore and buy more. You ever met someone who drank Diet Coke? You either don't drink it or you're obsessed with it. My mom would only drink Diet Coke, Heineken, or Long Island iced tea. Any one of those would wash down the constant Advil she took, because all she did all day was sit at the computer in chat rooms. Diet Coke and the computer were her life. She was also addicted to bleaching her hair and tanning until she was as dark as her Coke. You'd think she'd be dead by now from all that, but somehow she's still alive at 64. 100% food. Eating disorders function a lot like addiction, but you can't just give up eating. Avoidance la sobriety is physically impossible. Not eating too. You have to learn to function normally around the thing you feel so horrible over. That one Phi and K of my father hated stuff to stay the same. So she made it a habit addiction to change everything all the time. We painted the hallway like 3 times in a year. She jumped jobs constantly. And apparently even love was like that for her. She was unfaithful to her ex with my father and apparently with someone else on my father. I always found it funny to make change your habit, as she tried to avoid having habits, but with that had quite a weird one. Okay, I'm quite curious, because not to this extreme, but this sounds like me. I don't like doing the same thing over and over. I like to change things all the time because I get bored, etc. I wonder if this is indicative behavior of a disorder or exercise. Obviously it isn't a bad thing in general, but I have seen a couple of people take it to unhealthy extremes and they wore themselves out and ended up with long-term injuries. I almost lost a lot. I had a set routine of 1 hour, no less, every morning. After work, another hour of cardio plus weights. At one point, I had 2 gym memberships. I'd do cardio at one gym, then leave and go to CrossFit. On weekends it went up to 2 hours. I was frequently late to everything because I had to finish a workout no matter what. It was mechanical, X number of minutes, calories, or steps must be done. I'd work out sick, tired, injured. My knees, shoulders, and hips are still shot. Plus, I'm dealing with the metabolic rebound. Everyone praised my hardcore ethic and dedication, even though I knew it was causing me problems. But I'm more balanced now, even though that pull is still there. I'm addicted to chapstick. I use it 3 times an hour on my lips. Thank you for clarifying that you use it on your lips. I was worried. Conspiracy thinking. I've seen people turn so paranoid they've completely ceased to function. Over the most baseless bullshit. But they're like dead inside now they're gone. Yes, it's a surprisingly short leap from Stanley Kubrick directed the moon landing to being a full-fledged flat earther who knows for sure that reptilians are masquerading as humans in every position of power on the planet. Dr. Pepper. Have you talked to someone obsessed with Dr. Pepper? Shit's scary. I'm not currently drinking a DP and thinking about getting another one. Nope. My ex was a video game addict. Mainly retro consoles and Steam. It was horrifying watching him play. As soon as he made eye contact with the screen, his face was devoid of any emotion or movement. He had that 1,000-yard stare. My breaking point was when he began bringing his Nintendo DS on dates and played with it while we were waiting on our food. Needless to say, we didn't last long. Gaming was not a hobby for him, but an addiction. Damn, I somehow understand being addicted to the immersive worlds built by Morpgs, but getting addicted to Super Mario is insane to me. Cracking packs of collectible card games, MTG, Pokemon, etc. Sugar, dude. I dated a girl who wanted me to kick sugar. I toss out all my old food. Purchased more and lasted 36 hours. For me to stick to that, you would have had to lock me in a padded room and feed me under the door. I'd rather get addicted to heroin and kick that than try to kick sugar again. My whole body ached, and the horror of realizing all the food I like is off the menu. Sugar is a tough one. I've struggled with it. It's really hard, especially this time of year. I think your mistake was throwing it all out at once. I stopped with sugary drinks and switched to tea, unsweetened obviously, and started checking labels to make sure they weren't secretly packed with it. Then I didn't feel so bad about having a cookie or something, which is the type of sugar I would rather have anyway. Procrastinating. I'm starting to think it's an addiction. BC, from what I've witnessed, anything could be used to procrastinate. None of them are Mr. Substituted, but the act of procrastination remains, just in a different form. This is me. I don't get anything done unless I have a strict deadline. What's helped me is procrastinating one task with a different task I have to do. Like, I'm putting off this paper so I'm gonna wash the dishes instead. Porn, smut, books, sex. My ex-wife read and watched so much that it blurred her sense of reality, and she decided she wanted to live like that. It ruined our marriage. I was reading some smut books, and as a woman, I realized that those books are legit making me delusional unless I can remember that they are not real life. Those types of books made me more insecure than anything in real life, and that delusion gave me anxiety. It took me a while to realize that my mind was making shit up that wasn't really there. It can be problematic AF, so I had to stop reading stuff like that. Guns. There's a guy who is so obsessed with guns that he sleeps with them in bed at night, like a teddy bear. His job is at a gun shop. All the movies he watches are violent shoot 'em ups. All his video games are about guns and FPS. He lives with his folks because he can't afford rent or house payments. All his money is already allocated to guns and ammo. He won't go out on social outings unless it's to a gun show, shooting range, or gun shops. He has a concealed carry permit, and he won't even go out for the mail without a gun on his hip. Even most of his shirts have guns on them, or a gun manufacturer's brand name. He doesn't have many friends, except for those who are also gun enthusiasts. But as stated above, He doesn't hang out with them unless it's at a gun-related event. He doesn't go out for beers or anything like that. His entire life revolves around guns. He's been like this for years. He won't even talk about anything else. Guns, 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 guns. Source: he's my brother. Hobby turned to obsessive addiction. That's scary. Donating to streamers, more specifically IRL and lolcows. I've seen dudes drop serious cash just to mess with someone. A friend of mine is a streamer on Twitch. She did a fundraiser cause she needed a new computer and she didn't want to pay for it. She raised $3K in an hour for it from her subs. I couldn't believe it. Reddit lol. This is mine. Probably over 5 hours daily on average since 2012. It's bad. Negativity. I know I probably sound like one of those fuckwards that insist everyone be positive at all times, but I was in a very deep friendship with someone that ended in part because she just became more and more this negative, toxic, miserable person. As a fellow sufferer of depression, I empathized greatly, and in fact that's in part how we bonded. But her dedication to hatefulness and ire and misery at everything and everyone around her seemed to be as much her natural personality, even without mental illness being a factor. And she would absolutely not take any steps to change herself or her situation. I hope she's happier now, but I had to end things for my own well-being because our friendship was hurting me. On a lighter note, I think I'm addicted to owning small rodents, especially rats. I started with a hamster at 7 and I'm still keeping an ever-changing rodent menagerie now. Gambling. My dad had a gambling problem before I was born, and it's why I have no desire to gamble or go to a casino. Self-pity. This is a strange one, hard to grasp until you get to know someone who does it. Had a friend who I don't speak to anymore because I legit couldn't talk to him about anything. Obviously can't talk about his life, or ask him how he's doing. Get scolded for that. Something bad happened to me? He's got it worse. I should be grateful. Something good? I shouldn't be bragging. Even seemingly mundane stuff would set him off. Strangest thing, there is a reason envy is one of the 7 deadly sins. I almost completely stopped hanging out with my best friend, who is also the best man from my wedding, because I can't tolerate his crippling phone addiction. He basically never looks up from his phone for more than a couple minutes. I still spend time with him sometimes, but it always just makes me sad and annoyed. Netflix. Honestly, might sound harmless, but my ex would literally just watch shows all day every day and do nothing else with his life. Anger. I've known too many rageaholics who didn't need substances to be assholes. Nasal spray. It sounds stupid but it's unfortunately very addictive. Haven't been able to get off that shit for months, and anytime I think I'm close it starts all over again. Exercise. It was only when I started dating an alcoholic that I recognized just how bad my habit was. I wasn't trying to lose weight. It wasn't tied to body image or control. I wasn't a competitive athlete, although that's how it started. I just felt like I was going to climb out of my own skin unless I was so tired at the end of the day from exercise that I'd have to crawl up the stairs to bed. I spent years in and out of hospitals for stress fractures, dehydration, headaches, fucked up blood work. I have long-term health issues related to exhaustion and overwork. My body will never be what it could have been if I'd exercised in moderation. Seeing my ex on a drinking binge, that I realized that I'd been doing something similar. Set after set on not enough food or rest instead of drinking shot after shot. We both were spiraling in just mindless repetition and damage. I felt like a little rat who, instead of pressing the lever for drugs, I figured out that there was a point of running on a little wheel that felt better to me than any drug I'd sampled, so I would do it until I physically collapsed. Pity parties. She had a good life, but nothing was ever good enough. I know what an energy vampire is now. Gambling. It's sort of quiet. But once those stupid slot machines became legal in my state, every other bar had them. And I knew some people who would only go out to bars that had them. This is gonna sound dumb, but fingernail biting. I did it up until I was 18. It took a very infected middle finger, I'd bitten some flesh off, to make me stop. My students and the internet and phones. It was almost like it caused physical pain to separate them from their phones. I never had this issue. Never got caught with it out. Never needed it for quiet time. Just it's so sad to see them so attached. Fox News. My dad and his side of the family are completely hooked to it unfortunately and have been for quite a few years now. It's hard to have a regular conversation at times without it eventually veering into a political sensationalized debate. That shit really does damage on people's personalities and gets its hooks into them like a drug. I know people who watch that shit 24 hours a day and it turned them from normal people into angry, bitter, hateful shells of themselves. I've lost friends and family members to that crap. I have made it a point to block it from my DVR permanently and even disabled the Samsung Smart Guide on my new TV because it kept recommending Fox News. It really is one of the worst things to happen to the US since the Civil War. Pornography. I myself am addicted. I don't know if it's affecting my life as I still get erections. I just think too much about it and watch images of nude women on Reddit way too damn much. Sorry for the run on. Easily gambling. Hell, I'd say gambling addictions are often worse than substance addictions. Plenty of people have lost everything to a gambling addiction: their jobs, families, houses, and lives. And unlike many substance addictions, gambling addictions can be completely unknown until all of a sudden when you realize everything is gone because your partner gambled it away. Had a client who said gambling is the worst addiction and he also had a cocaine addiction for 12 years. He said in one night of a coke binge, the most I lost was a few thousand. In one night of gambling, I lost both our cars, my house, and emptied out our savings account. Double quote. Self-harm. 7 years clean, still think about it some days. It wasn't a person, but a cat that was addicted to its own purring. Yeah, seriously. When cats purr, it releases those happy chemicals in the brain, like a drug would, only you can't exactly take this away. Poor thing would sit there, purring so loudly you could hear him in the next room and was always drooling on himself, looking very much like a drug user. We think he came from a neglected situation and learned to self-soothe in this fashion and it took on a life of its own. He really wasn't able to function like a cat, couldn't play, he'd eat, but only in a few bites at a time. But he was the biggest, drooling lover bug ever. Like, if you wanted a cat that was most like a stuffed animal, he'd fit the bill. My elderly neighbor adopted him and to my knowledge, both lived out their days together, snuggling and cuddling and being as content as possible. Porn. I've now dated 2 people who masturbate so much that they forget women are real people with real emotions and feeling. If I say something hurts, fucking stop it. I don't care if the women in the porn you watch like it aggressive. I'm not her and there's a 90% chance she doesn't actually like it either. Also, I don't like being talked down to, yelled at, or ordered around like a maid. I'm an actual fucking person, not some slave you can stick your dick in whenever you feel like and boss around like it's my sole purpose in life when you don't. Not to mention having my own sexual needs definitely not being met by your porn addicted ass. Exactly. I once told my ex to go slow and all of a sudden he pushed it in, which almost made me cry. I trusted him to make me comfortable and he did the exact opposite. I made sure to give him a piece of my mind LMAO. Second Life. In 10 years that I've been on it, I've spent $4,000 total. There are people who I know that have spent more and I thought I was bad. I have a couple friends who are shopaholics on that thing and they will throw money just to get them all for a pretty picture to show around on FB and Flickr. Never thought I'd hear of it again. I imagine it's mostly whales now. Dota 2. Gosh darn it. intimacy. I have a friend who is obsessed with the idea of relationship sex. Every hangout involves the same self-pitying rant where he asks me, why don't women find me attractive when I give him suggestions on what he can do to improve himself? He gets crazy defensive or claims that it's impossible. He also has the tendency to initiate physical contact with me, a woman, by randomly picking me up or laying his head on my chest, and gets offended when I push him away. In addition to constantly telling me about all of his kinks and shit, he likes to objectify female friends, acquaintances, strangers, and sometimes me. The thing that pisses me off the most is when I tell him about a problem I'm having, and he completely rebuffs it by saying, well, at least you're in a relationship. I know the man has some mental problems, which is why I'm scared to confront him, but he's seriously testing my patience. This isn't a friend. This is someone who ignores your boundaries and needs and does nothing to improve his situation. Consider distancing yourself from this person. Not someone, but me. Root beer. Wasn't allowed to drink soda at home. When I got to college, the dining halls had unlimited. At one point I had gained about 15 pounds of root beer, and drank about 12-15 glasses a day, not including when I filled up my flask for overnight. Combined with poor diet choices and not working out, this actually ended up starting to destroy my liver. It was a glass for breakfast, 3-4 at lunch, 3-4 in between lunch and dinner, like tea time lol, and about 4 at dinner, then the overnight flask. I stopped over the summer, started working out, and have lost the 15 pounds, and my liver enzymes are back to normal levels.